Hello students, today let us discuss about part C. In part C, the first unit is matter waves. In the last class, I already told that in this compulsory paper there are three parts, part A, part B, part C. In part C, the first unit is matter waves. So matter waves is nothing but it is a part of the wave mechanics or quantum mechanics. First, let us know about what do you mean by wave mechanics. The version of quantum mechanics that should be based on studying the properties of the wave function is known as the wave mechanics. What do you mean by wave mechanics? The version of quantum mechanics based on studying the properties of the wave function is known as wave mechanics. So the quantum mechanics is first discovered by de Broglie by the discovery of wave properties of the electrons in the year 1927, and the quantum theory is the theoretical basis of modern physics that explains the nature and behavior of the matter and energy of the atomic and subatomic level. So first let us discuss about what are the failure of classical mechanics in the microscopic domain. The first concept is black body radiation. Here are some experimental facts about black body radiation. The first one is the black body spectrum depends only on the temperature of the object and not on what it is made of. And the second point is as the temperature of the object increases, it emits more black body energy at all wavelength. The third one is as the temperature of an object increases, the peak wavelength of the black body spectrum becomes shorter. That means if the temperature is increases, the peak will be shorter. And the fourth one is the black body spectrum always becomes small at the left hand side. That means for the left hand side the spectrum will be small. So is as shown in this figure. If we plot a graph of intensity versus frequency, we get the graph like this. If we plot a graph of intensity versus frequency, this is if you plot a graph of intensity versus frequency, we get graph like this. So this is for maximum frequency. So this curve for temperature 1000 Kelvin, this is the peak obtained when the temperature is 1500 Kelvin. So according to classical mechanics, if the temperature increases, what happens? If the temperature increases, it emits more blackbody energy, and also the spectrum depends on the temperature. But classical physics could not explain the shape of the blackbody spectrum. So this is the failure of the classical mechanics. And according to classical physics, there should be no limit to the energy of the light produced by the electrons vibrating at high frequencies. This is not correct. So this will be corrected by Planck's formula is agrees with the experimental values. Therefore, after Planck's after the Planck's give the correct formula for the blackbody radiation, they accepted. Therefore, the quantum mechanics is explains the blackbody radiation, but classical mechanics fails to explain the blackbody radiation. The second point is, this is very important, second one, hydrogen atom and Bohr model. So the Rutherford model failed to explain two main observation features of the hydrogen atom. So there are mainly two important things that should be failed to explain by Rutherford. The first one is its stability. So the hydrogen atom stability, and the second one is the spectrum of its radiation. So let us consider the first point. According to the stability of the hydrogen atom, an electron in a curved orbit is accelerated and hence must radiate it. As it radiates, its energy will be away. The radius of the orbit must decreases until eventually it collapses into the nucleus. That means if it should be accelerated, and it should be, if the acceleration will be more, it should be, the radius of the orbit will be decreases, and then at last it should be collapsed into the nucleus. Thus the atom cannot be stable. According to Rutherford, the atom cannot be stable, but most of the atoms we know that they are stable. The second discrepancy involves the observed radiation spectrum. The frequency of the radiated energy should be the same as the orbiting frequency. And also, the Bohr provided an explanation for both the spectral discreteness and the observed stability. He proposed that in solving for the orbital motion of the electron in its hydrogenic orbit, one should impose an added condition. The angular momentum of the electron must be equal to some integer that should be multiple of the h. H is, we know that, Planck's constant. So angular momentum of the electron is given by small letter L. N represents some integer. S represents the Planck's constant. So L should be equal to NH, where L is angular momentum, N is an integer, and H is Planck's constant. So the quantization implies that the laws of classical mechanics and of classical electromagnetism are inapplicable at the atomic level. So according to that, we know that, let us consider, this is the orbit of the electron. This is the electron orbit. Electrons will be revolving around the nucleus. So this is considered, this is the nucleus. That means proton at the nucleus, and the electron should be revolving around the nucleus. So this is the hydrogen atom. So when should be the acceleration will be increases, it should be radius will be decreases, and it should be collapsed into the nucleus. But it is actually, this will be not this is not truth, and this will be failure of the classical mechanics. And also, as a result, the electron should be continuously losing energy. In fact, physics predicted that the electron should lose all of its energy and spiral down into the proton in 10 to the power minus 12 seconds. This is not correct, as the stability of the atom under big question. So we know that all the more of the atoms will be stable. So this is the failure of the classical mechanics. So the next one is specific heat of solid. So this is the another experimental observation that could not be explained, was that of the heat capacity of the solid. Classical mechanics that should be failed to explain the specific heat of solids. Classical equipartition of energy led to the prediction that the specific heat per kilomole of solid element should be 3R. That means Cv should be equal to 3 into R. This is the more important equation. Specific heat capacity should be equal to 3 into R. This is also called as Dulong-Petit's law. That means it should be verified by Dulong and Petit. So both are scientists. That Dulong and Petit verified this result for many elements at the higher temperature. But Dulong and Petit fails to explain the result for Cv is equal to 3R at low temperature. However, the prediction failed completely in the low temperature domain. So this disagreement between theory and experiment was resolved by Einstein and Debye. So this should be corrected. That means the already we know that the Dulong and Petit verified the CV is equal to 3R for higher temperature, but it is good agreement with the experimental value, but they are failed to explain the prove that at the very low temperature, but it is resolved. That means it should be solved by the Einstein and Debye, who apply the Planck's quantization condition. So this is very important, Planck's quantization condition. That means E is equal to h mu, where mu is the frequency, h is Planck's constant, E is the energy. This Planck's quantization condition, E is equal to h mu, to the mechanical oscillations of the lattice. The most profound effect of applying Planck's postulates to an oscillator, so is that its average thermal equilibrium excitation energy is no longer equal to kT. That means the CV, the specific heat capacity, is no longer should be equal to kT. So CV is equal to, we know that CV is equal to 3R, and excitation energy and excitation energy is E should be equal to that excitation energy should be equal to kT. So it's no longer to equal to kT. That means the classical value is equal to, this is the classical value. Classical value is kT, but it should not be no longer to equal to kT. It actually, the energy is given by E is equal to h mu by e to the power of h mu by kT minus 1. This is the new equation. So this satisfies the condition at both the higher temperature as well as the low temperature. But before that, they prove that only the E should be equal to kT. But it should be corrected by Einstein and Debye. They consider the Planck quantization condition. So they prove that E is equal to not kT, it should be h mu by e to the power of h mu by kT minus 1. So where h is Planck's constant, mu is the frequency, exponential of E h mu by kT minus 1. So the next one is very important, fourth one, that means the classical mechanics fail to explain the fine structure of spectral lines. So we know that the hydrogen spectrum has the spectral lines. When the familiar red spectral line of the hydrogen spectrum is examined at very high resolution, it is found to be a closely spaced doublet. That means the spectrum will be very closely spaced doublet. This splitting is called as the fine structure and was one of the first experimental evidence for electron spin. This is the first experimental evidence for the electron spin. The small splitting of the spectral line is attributed to an interaction between the electron spin S and the orbital angular momentum L. It is called the spin-orbit interaction. But according to classical theory, an excited atom should emit electromagnetic radiation continuously of all possible wavelength. That means classical theory explained that when the atom should be excited from the lower energy to higher energy level, they should be emit the electromagnetic radiation continuously of all the possible wavelength. So this is contradiction with the experimental observation. That means the classical mechanics does not hold good to explain the formation of fine spectral lines in the case of the atoms. So this is the failure of the classical mechanics to explain the fine structure of the spectral lines. Let us discuss about what do you mean by particle and wave nature in classical mechanics. In classical mechanics, one can explain the motion in terms of either particle or motion. Classically, they are distinctly different things. So, in classical mechanics, the particle motion obeys the Newton's laws. Particles carry energy and momentum in localized small portion. Often, this portion is called as the point particles. These small portions are called as point particles. And the waves in classical mechanics describe the motion of entities which are spread out and not localized. classical electric and magnetic waves are described by the waves. So this is the particle and wave nature according to the classical mechanics. So when the classical mechanics are fails, the next one is very important. Consider the quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics are explains the failure of classical mechanics. So before that, first let us very important, what do you mean by matter waves? So in 1924, de Broglie suggested that if radiation behave as a wave in some experiment and as particle in others, then particles like electrons should exhibit wave nature under suitable condition. So before the de Broglie, the scientists think that they are only the particle nature. They not consider the wave nature. So this is the main disadvantages are it should be failed that in classical mechanics. So we know that the wave nature under suitable condition, that means it behaves both the particle as well as the wave nature. The waves associated with material particles such as electron, neutrons which are moving are called the matter waves. What do you mean by matter waves? The waves associated with the material particles such as electrons, neutrons which are moving are called as the matter waves. So, what do you mean by de Broglie's hypothesis? De Broglie hypothesis that they suggest that the particles like electrons or neutrons should exhibit both wave nature under suitable condition, that is a moving particle behaves as a wave under suitable condition, and also the particle nature. So this is known as the de Broglie's hypothesis. Next one is, this is very important expression for de Broglie's wavelength. So in the examination, derive an expression for the de Broglie wavelength. It should be asked for the 6 marks. So this is very important. So according to Einstein's mass energy relation, by considering the particle nature of light, we know that Einstein's mass energy relation E should be equal to mc square. This is equation number 1, where m is the mass and c is the velocity of the light and E is the energy. According to Planck's hypothesis, we know that the energy related by the considering the wave nature of light, that means E should be equal to h mu. According to Einstein's mass energy relation, E is equal to mc square. According to Planck's hypothesis, E is equal to h mu, where h is the Planck's constant and mu is the frequency. So this is considered as equation 2. So from the equation 1 and 2, we know that LHS same means RHS is also same. Therefore, h mu should be equal to mc square. But we know that what is mu frequency? Mu is equal to c by lambda, where c is the velocity of light, lambda is the wavelength. Therefore, substitute for mu. If we substitute for mu, we get h into mu means c by lambda is equal to mc square, or it should be written as h by lambda is equal to mc. That means c should be get cancels. Therefore, h by lambda is equal to mc, or lambda is equal to h by mc. Just rearrange the terms, we get lambda is equal to h by mc. But we know, but what is momentum? Momentum should be equal to mc. Therefore, substitute for mc. What is mc? mc is nothing but momentum. Therefore, lambda is equal to h by p, where h is the Planck's constant, p is the momentum, lambda is the wavelength. So, according to the de Broglie, if a particle of mass m moving with the velocity v, that should be possess a momentum m into v. And then the de Broglie wavelength of the particle lambda is given by lambda is equal to h by mv. That means where me is the momentum. P, momentum should be equal to product of mass into velocity. Therefore, lambda is equal to h by mv. This equation is known as the de Broglie wave equation, and lambda is called as the de Broglie wavelength. So this gives the expression for the de Broglie's wave equation. So this is the expression for the de Broglie's wavelength. And the problems also comes from this according to the de Broglie's wavelength. Next one is very important. What is phase velocity and group velocity? First, let us know about what you mean by phase velocity. Velocity of the de Broglie wave is called as the phase velocity, and the velocity with which a group of waves that should be moving is called as the group velocity. The velocity of de Broglie wave is called as phase velocity, and the velocity with which a group of waves should be moving is called as the group velocity. There is a relation between group velocity and phase velocity. Let us derive the relation between phase velocity and group velocity. Group velocity is a function of frequency mu and the wavelength lambda, that is group velocity is represented by V subscript G, that is group velocity should be equal to d mu divided by d of 1 by lambda. Mu is the frequency, 1 by lambda is the wavelength. We know that Planck's, according to Planck's, E is equal to h mu, where mu is given by, just rearrange the terms, mu should be equal to E by h, and also we know that lambda is given by h by p, or 1 by lambda can be written as p by h. Substitute for mu and 1 by lambda in the equation 1. If we substitute for the value of mu and 1 by lambda, we get Vg should be equal to d of E by h and d of p by h, or it should be written as dE by dh and dP by dh. So this dh get cancelled. Therefore Vg is equal to dE by dP. This represents equation 2. And also we know that one relation, Einstein's mass energy momentum relation, that is E square should be equal to m naught square c to the power of 4 plus p square c square. This is known as the Einstein's mass momentum energy relation. So if we differentiate, we get E square is becomes 2e dE. This should be constant, m naught square c to the power of 4. If we differentiate, we get 0 plus p square is 2p dP, and c square is constant. I write it as same c square. So 2e dE should be equal to 2p dP c square. 2 get cancelled. EdE is equal to p dP c square, or dE by dP should be equal to pc square by E. Substitute in the equation to dE by dP. dE by dP is nothing but pc square by E. We get Vg. Vg should be equal to pc square by E, or we know that what is momentum? Momentum P is equal to mv. Therefore P becomes mv c square. What is E? Einstein mass equation. E is equal to mc square. Therefore mc square. Therefore Vg is equal to mv c square by mc square. So in this get cancelled, c square get cancelled. Therefore we get Vg is equal to V. So hence Vg is called as group velocity and V is the particle velocity. So this gives the relation between group velocity and particle velocity. So group velocity should be equal to the particle velocity. The next one is very important, some experiments. So the G.P. Thomson and Davison and Germer independently confirmed the de Broglie's hypothesis by demonstrating that electron beams are diffracted when they are scattered by the regular crystal. So experimental results. The experimental results are given by two experiments. One is Thomson's experiment, another one is Davison and Germer experiment. They give the practical evidence for the de Broglie's hypothesis. So first let us consider the Thomson's experiment. So the experimental arrangement is shown in this figure. So the beam of cathode rays is produced in the discharge tube by means of an induction coil. The electrons are made to pass through the fine hole A. So the electrons are emitted by the induction coil. The electrons are made to pass through the small hole A, are incident on the polycrystalline foil F, that means it should be made up of gold, of thickness of the about 10 to the power minus 8 meter. The thickness will be 10 to the power minus 8 meter, and the characteristic rings are formed by diffracted beams of electrons on the film S. A very high vacuum is maintained in the camera portion. That means in this camera portion means in this portion FP of the apparatus, air is allowed to leak into the discharge tube section through a needle valve D. This air should be pumped with through this D. Thus, a beam of desired voltage can be continuously produced. A beam of electrons of known velocity is made to incident on this photographic plate after traversing through foil. When the plate is developed, circular patterns are obtained. The pattern is the characteristics of the atomic spacing in the crystal structure. This experiment demonstrates that the electron beam behaves as the waves, since diffraction patterns can be produced only by waves. That means the electrons are liberated by this, then that is passed through this wall, and it should be passed through this gold, that means polycrystalline foil, then it makes the the electron beam or produces the diffraction pattern. So this is the diffraction rings. We obtained this is the film after the electron beam strike the screen at 3 position. So we get we observe that there is a diffraction rings are formed. So we know that this experiment demonstrates that the electron beam behaves as the wave. So this is the electron beam. So this is behaves as the wave, since diffraction patterns can be produced only by the waves. That means the electron beam behaves as a wave. So this is the practical evidence for the de Broglie's hypothesis. So next we have to verify the de Broglie's equation. So Thomson's employed very high voltages of the order of 50,000 volts to accelerate the electrons according to the de Broglie's theory. The wavelength of electron is given by lambda is equal to 12.27 divided by square root of V Armstrong. Applying this relativistic correction for the mass of the electron of high speed, the wavelength of the electron can be shown as lambda is equal to 1 divided by square root of 1 plus 9.86 into 10 to the power of minus 7 Armstrong. In this method, many crystals are exposed to the electron beam. Some of the crystallites are oriented with respect to the beam such that Brock's law is satisfied. Each of these will produce a diffraction beam. So let us consider, let AB be the incident electron beam that should be passing through the film B, where BP is the direction of the beam which has suffered a Bragg's refraction in some crystal in the film at B. The reflected beam falls at a distance r from the central point O is as shown in this figure. Let L be the distance from the film to the plate. So this is the angle to theta. Here theta is called as the glancing angle. So according to the Bragg's equation, 2d sin theta is equal to n lambda. This is equation number 1. This is called as the Bragg's equation. So in this figure we know that let AB is the incident electron beam passing through the film B. BP is the direction of the So in this figure we know that let AB be the incident electron beam. It should be passing through the film at B, and BP is the direction of the beam which has suffered a Bragg's reflection at B. Then the reflected beam falls at a distance R and from the central point O. Then the angle PBO should be equal to 2 theta. Here theta is called as the glancing angle, and the L is the distance between the L and O. So from the figure, R by L should be equal to tan 2 theta is equal to 2 theta. Since theta is very small, it should be equal to 2 theta, and R by L is equal to 2 theta. Therefore, theta is equal to R by 2L. This is equation 2. From the equation 1, we know that what is 2d sin theta is equal to n lambda. So, 2d theta is equal to n lambda, because since theta is small, and r theta is equal to n lambda divided by 2d. This is equation 3. From the equation 2 and 3, LHS same is RHS is also same. That means n lambda by 2d should be equal to r by 2l. Just rearrange the terms, we get lambda is equal to rd by nl. So if we know the value of r and D and L, the wavelength can be calculated. So this agrees well with the calculated value, and this provides the ultimate confirmation for the wave nature of the electron. So Thomson's give the practical evidence for the wave nature of the electrons. So this is one experiment. So the another one experiment is Davidson and Germer experiment. So the experimental arrangement is as shown in this figure. The operator consists of the electron gun, has the filament F. When the filament is heated by applying the low potential across it, the electrons are emitted. If the electrons are emitted, the electrons are accelerated by another potential V2. These accelerated electrons are passed through the pinholes H1, H2 in the cylinder C, and a well collimated beam should be comes out of the cylinder. This beam should be falls on the single nickel crystal. This should be the target. Single nickel crystal should be the target. The crystal is capable of rotation about an axis parallel to the axis of incident beam. Then the electrons are scattered in all the direction by the atoms in the crystal. The scattered electrons are collected by the cylinder D, and it is called as the collector. So this experiment should be confirm the existence of the de Broglie's wave. So after the collector also rotates about the same axis as well as the target, then the collector is connected to the sensitive galvanometer G. Then the deflection produced, it is proportional to the intensity of the electron beam entering the collector. The collector has two walls C and D insulated from each other. A retarding potential is applied between the two walls of the collector so that only the electrons with nearly the incident velocity and not the secondary slow electrons may enter the collector. So this is the construction of the Davidson and Germer experiment. Next is procedure. So the nickel crystal belongs to the face-centered cubic type and it is so cut. The present a small reflecting surface. It should be parallel to the lattice plane is 1 1. The plane will be 1 1. The beam of electron should be falls normally on the surface of the crystal. A diffraction effect from the surface of the crystal should be acting as a plane grating is produced. For each azimuth of the crystal, a beam of electron is made to fall normal on the crystal. The accelerating voltage V2 is gradually increased in steps and for each value of accelerating voltage. The intensity of the scattered electron beam is measured at different angles. The graph showing the intensity at different angles versus the accelerating voltages. So, if we plot a graph versus voltage versus incident beam is as shown in this figure. The graph remains fairly smooth till the accelerating voltage becomes 44 volts. That means up to 44 volts the graph will be fairly smooth curve. When it is reaches to 44 volts, we observe that there will be a spur. This is called as the spur. We observe that there is a spur. So if we further increase the voltage, the spur will be increases. The length of the spur will be increases until it reaches the maximum voltage 54 volts. So the length of the spur will be increases only up to 54 volts. So what happens at an angle of 50 degree? After that, when the accelerating voltage is further increased, the length of the spur will be decreases and it should be disappears at 68 volts. So up to 40 volts there will be a smooth curve. So after 44 at 44 what happens, this is very important. There will be observed that there is a spur will be formed. So when we increase the voltage, the length of the spur will be increases up to 54 voltage. If we further increase beyond 54 voltage, the length of the spur will be decreases. When the spur will be disappears, when 68 voltage, the spur will be disappears. So the intensity of the scattered beam is maximum in the direction 50 degree to the incident beam. This is due to the constructive interference of the electron waves. Therefore, the glancing angle theta should be given by 180 degree minus 50 degree divided by 2. Where 150 minus 50 means 130 divided by 2 is 65 degree. So the spacing of the plane is measured as 0.091 nanometer by the X-ray diffraction. The spacing plane will be discovered by the X-ray diffraction method and the spacing of the plane will be measured as what we get practically 0.091 nanometer. We know that according to Bragg's equation, what is the Bragg's equation? 2d sin theta is equal to n lambda. This is called as Bragg's equation. Substitute the value of d. D spacing, d is equal to 0.091 nanometer. So n is equal to 1 first order and theta is equal to 65 degree. If we substitute in the Bragg's equation, we get lambda is equal to 1.65 Armstrong. If we substitute and simplify, we get the value of lambda is equal to 1.65 Armstrong. But according to de Broglie, the wavelength of electron lambda is equal to 12.27 by square root of V Armstrong. Here the voltage will be 54 volts. That means the length of the spur will be maximum at 54 voltage. Therefore, voltage is maximum is 54 voltage. If we substitute in this, we get the lambda is equal to 1.66 Armstrong. So this is good agreement with these two values. This wavelength agrees well with the experimental results. This is the theoretical value, this is the experimental value. This is a good agreement with the theoretical and experimental value. This shows that the existence of the matter waves. So Davison and Germer experiment also proves the existence of the matter waves. So Thomson, Davison and Germer, the scientists prove the existence of the matter waves practically. Next, let us discuss about Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So, according to Heisenberg uncertainty principle, it states that simultaneous determination of exact position and momentum of a moving particle is impossible. So, at a time, there is a exact determination of the position and momentum of a moving particle is impossible. So this is called as the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. We can measure exactly either any one of the moving particle, but simultaneously measuring the exact measurement of the position and momentum of moving particle is impossible. So this is called as the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Let us consider if dx denotes the error in position, delta p represents the momentum of moving particle, then the product of this uncertainty is equal to h. H is the Planck's constant. Where it is Planck's constant, that is delta x cross delta p is equal to h, or delta x cross delta p is equal to h cross. H cross we know that is given by h by 2 pi. So this is called as the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So the very important thing is gamma ray microscope. So after the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, so we know that this Heisenberg uncertainty principle, it is given by the German physicist Heisenberg in the year 1927, and also they also state that simultaneous measurement of the exact position and moment of the moving particle is impossible, or it cannot be both be measured exactly at the same time. It is also there is a time energy uncertainty is it is impossible to measure simultaneously exact the time and energy of the moving particle. It is also impossible. We cannot measure exactly the time and energy at the same time of the moving particle. This is called as the time energy uncertainty. So next one is gamma ray microscope. So the Heisenberg designed an imaginary microscope. This is the imaginary microscope to illustrate the uncertainty principle. So they give the practical evidence to measure the position and momentum of an electron using an imaginary microscope with a very high resolving power. It should be as shown in this figure. The electron can be observed if at least one photon is scattered by it into the microscope lens. The resolving power of the microscope is given by the relation delta x is equal to lambda by 2 sin theta. This is equation 1, where lambda x is the distance between the 2 points which can be just resolved by the microscope. Hence, delta x is the uncertainty involved in position measurement of the electron. Here, the incoming photon will interact with the electron through Compton effect to be able to see this electron. The scattered photon should enter the microscope within the angle 2 theta. The momentum imparted by the photon to the electron during this impact is of the order of lambda by order of h by lambda. So, the component of this momentum along the OA is minus h by lambda sin theta, and that along OB is plus h by lambda sin theta. Hence, the uncertainty in the momentum measured in the x direction is delta px is equal to h by lambda sin theta minus into minus of minus h by lambda sin theta, or delta px is equal to 2h by lambda sin theta. This is equation number 2. From the equation 1 and 2, delta x into delta px is equal to lambda by 2 sin theta into 2h by lambda into sin theta, where lambda get cancels with each other, 2 get cancels, sin theta get cancelled. Therefore, delta x into delta px is equal to h. So, this is what is h is equal to delta x into delta, means this is called as the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So, this is called as the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. According to this, there is impossible to measure exactly the position and momentum of a moving particle. So, this is practically explained by the gamma ray microscope. This is the imaginary microscope. So, in this figure, they move that. So, this is considered there is a this is the source, and this is the incident photon, and this is the electron. The photon is emitted by the source. It should be incident and the electron, and it should be moves in the two direction. One is it should be the deflected photon, and this should be recoiled photon. So this makes the angle theta. So this is the h by lambda dash, and this is the h by lambda dash. So this is the gamma ray microscope. So next, let us solve some problems on this quantum mechanics or matter waves. The first one is the de Broglie wavelength of the proton is 1 angstrom. Find its kinetic energy in electrovolt. So we have to calculate the de Broglie wavelength of the proton is 1 angstrom. Find its kinetic energy. We have to find the kinetic energy in electrovolts. Given mass of the proton is 1.67 into 10 to the power of minus 27 kg. H Planck's constant 6.624 into 10 to the power of minus 34 joule second. So first write the given data. Lambda is equal to, what is the wavelength? Lambda is equal to 1 angstrom. Angstrom is 10 to the power minus 10 meter. And what is the another one? Mass of the proton is given and Planck's constant is given. We know that Ek is equal to h square by 2m lambda square. Ek represents the kinetic energy. So, given in this given data, h is given, m is given, lambda is given. Substitute the value of h, m, lambda and simplify. We get the kinetic energy is Ek is equal to 8.210 into 10 to the power of minus 2 electrovolt. So, we have to obtain the kinetic energy in electrovolt, means it should be divided by the electron. What is the value of E is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 charge of the electron. If we divide by this charge of the electron, we get the kinetic energy in electrovolts. Second problem is calculate the wavelength of the electron having the velocity 2 into 10 to the power of 6 meter per second. Assume the mass of the electron will be 9.1 into 10 to the power of minus 31 kg. So in this problem given the value of velocity and the mass of the electron, we have to calculate the wavelength. First write the given data. Given data is V is equal to 2 into 10 power 6 meter per second. Mass is 9.1 into 10 to the power of minus 31 kg. And we know that this is the constant value, Planck's constant. H is equal to 6.625 into 10 to the power of minus 34 joule second. In this problem they not given, but we know that this is a constant value. We know that lambda is given by h by mv. So lambda is equal to h by mv, where lambda is the wavelength. So h, the value substitute for h and m and v and simplify, we get the wavelength of the electron lambda is equal to 3.64 angstrom. So if we simplify, we get the value of lambda is 3.64 angstrom. Angstrom is the SI unit for wavelength. So this is the de Broglie's wavelength. Lambda is equal to h by mv is the de Broglie's wavelength. So let us consider the next problem. A microscope using photon is employed to locate an electron in an atom to within a distance of 0.1 angstrom. Calculate the uncertainty in the momentum of the electron located. So let us consider the uncertainty principle, Heisenberg uncertainty principle. First we have to write given data. Given data will be, they given the value of distance, that means delta x. Delta x should be equal to 0.1 angstrom. We have to calculate the uncertainty in momentum. Momentum is delta p. Delta p should be equal to what? So we know that what is the uncertainty principle? Delta x delta p is equal to h by 2 pi. So we know the value of delta x. We have to calculate delta p. Just rearrange the formula. Delta p is equal to h by 2 pi into delta x. Substitute the value of h. We know that the value of Planck's constant 6.625 into 10 to the power of minus 34 joules, and 2 into pi value is 3.14. Delta x they given the 0.1 angstrom. Angstrom is 10 to the power of minus 10 meter. If we substitute and simplify, we get the value of uncertainty in momentum is delta p is equal to 10.55 into 10 to the power of minus 24 kg meter per second. So this is the uncertainty in the momentum. Thank you.